Hi, hello, good evening to each and every one of you, especially to you, Sir Mali. I am the group leader of Group 5, and now we will be discussing about the democracy and democratic institutions. So, have fun, and don't forget that we'll be having a quiz later on. So, watch it out.
Good day everyone. I am Jelime Pakibot. I am will be tackling or discussing about the democracy and democratic institution. Now we will be starting. During the implementation of an enhanced community quarantine due to pandemic caused by the novel coronavirus, some areas in Metro Manila witnessed intensified police presence. During the really strict lockdowns in Metro Manila because of COVID-19, you might have noticed more police around. The government was super serious about everyone staying home to stop the virus from spreading like crazy in our communities. Next, we will be discussing the five criteria according to that. First, the people or the demos. This basically means that in a true democracy, every adult should have a right to vote and participate in elections. The only exception is for people who have been proven to have mental deficiencies that would prevent them from understanding the voting processes. Next is control of the agenda. This means that the citizen of a country should have the power to decide what issues are important enough to be discussed and voted on. We should have a say in what the government focus on. Next, or the third one, is enlightened understanding. This means that before we vote or make decisions that affect our community, we should try to get as much information as possible. We need to understand the issues so we can choose what best for everyone. And the fourth one, or the second to the last, is effective participation. This means that we need to do more than just vote. We need to get involved in our communities, join groups, and make our voices heard so that our ideas becomes a reality. Lastly, equality in the voting process. This basically means that everyone votes counts the same. Whether you're rich or poor, young or old, your vote has the same weight as anyone else. Next,
That's great. And now, let's proceed to the advantages of democracy. As we all know that democracy is often seen as superior to other forms of government, such as authoritarianism for civil reasons. And these are the advantages of democracy. First, we have the prevention of tyranny. Democracy prevents the rise of cruel and vicious autocrats. In a democracy, leaders are chosen by the people and are not allowed to rule indefinitely. They can be freely elected and must adhere to a set of rules and laws, which prevents them from abusing their power. Second, we have the protection of essential rights and freedom. Democracy safeguards fundamental civil rights and freedoms, including freedom of expression, freedom of religion, and protection from slander. This allows individuals to express their opinions without fear of persecution as long as they don't harm others. Third, we have the self protection and self determination. Democracy empowers individuals by allowing them to protect their personal interests. It provides people with the greatest opportunity to choose their own paths and professions and to own private property. It also encourages the government to support its citizens in improving their lives through education, training, and business initiatives. Fourth, we have the moral autonomy. Democracy gives people the chance to exercise their moral responsibility. It rests on the belief that individuals know what's right and wrong. People can freely express their views on public issues without fear of punishment as long as they don't harm others. Fifth, we have the human development. Democracy helps people develop themselves. In a democratic government, institutions work to provide public services like education and healthcare to improve the well-being of citizens. Next, we have the restriction of inequality. Democracy strives to reduce economic and political inequalities. The government works to improve the lives of citizens by addressing these disparities. Next, we have the peacekeeping. Peacekeeping democracy is more likely to resolve conflicts peacefully. The text mentions that in the Philippines, peace negotiations have been used to address poverty and land reform. Lastly, we have the sustained economic growth. It means that freedom granted to citizens allows them to seize opportunities for their best interests, which in turn benefits the state's economy. The text notes that foreign investors are encouraged to do business in democratic countries, which generates job and revenue. Okay, so that's all for the advantages of democracy. And next,
Hello sir, good day. Today we will talk about the one of the most foundational concept in political life, democracy. What does democracy mean? Where did it come from? How has it evolved? And what are its strengths and weaknesses? But first, we will define what is democracy. Now, democracy, the word democracy comes from the ancient Greek. It is a compound of demos, meaning the people, and the kratos, meaning rule or the power. Thus, democracy literally means ruled by people. In Tin materials, democracy is defined as a system of government in which supreme political power is vested in the people, either exercised directly or through their elected agents under free electoral system with guarantee of equality among citizens. Now, democracy means ruled by people. It allows citizens to take a part of the governance directly and indirectly. Okay. Origins of democracy. Now let's talk about the origins first. Origins of democracy. Because today, origins of democracy is one of the main part for us to talk to. Democracy originated in ancient Athens in the 5th century BCE, where citizens directly participated in decision making, and it later evolved through Roman Republican ideas. Medieval charters like the Magna Carta, Enlightenment thought, and modern revolutions into representative democracies. Next slide is the ancient Greece. So in the ancient Greece, there is what we call the Greece and Rome. The ancient roots of democracy lie in Greece, where Athens developed direct citizens' participation in lawmaking in Rome, where the Republic introduced the representative institutions, checks and balances, and codified laws that shaped later democratic system. The next slide is the early influence. So what actually is the early influence? In ancient Mesopotamia and tribal councils, early forms of collective decision-making, ancient Greece, or what we call the Athens, considered the birthplace of democracy, where we can originated where the democracy come from. Okay. There's what we call also the Roman Republic, introduced representative governance. The next slide, Athenian democracy. Founded in Athens around 508 BCE by Celestines. Direct democracy. Citizens voted on laws directly. So, in Athenian democracy, there is direct democracy or indirect democracy. Like citizens voted on laws directly. Assembly, Ecclesia, Council of 500 and People's Court excluded women, slaves, or foreigners. The next slide is in origin of democracy. There is the several democratic practices such as suffrage or right to vote. All eligible citizens have the right to vote. They are the ones who choose the leaders and express their sovereign power through elections. Okay, it simply said that in origins of democracy, it tackled about how can we vote on our own, or how can we express our sovereign, how can we express our votage for the elections for us to choose our sovereign leaders. Okay, the next one is the consultation. Citizens have the right to peacefully gather, protest, hold public meetings in order to express opinions or greetings. Okay, the next one is the third is the majority rule by minority rights. Decisions are usually made by majority vote, but minority right must be respected. The will of the majority is the prevail, yet it must be reasonable and the right of those in the minority must be protected. The next one is consultation. Provisions and plebiscite changes and fundamental laws like the Constitution often then require the decision of the citizens. The next slide is what we call the criticism and challenges in line to origins of the democracy. Okay, so let's find criticism and challenges. One, that democracy could be dangerous because it places power in the hands of people who may be ignorant or envious. Such people may be manipulated by the mongoose. Okay, the democracy is somehow dangerous for the people because it is ruled by maybe politicians who are corrupt like that or envious or okay, it can cause a citizen conflict just like that. So let's talk about the Aristotle classification. Let's talk about the Aristotle classification based on the origins of democracy. Aristotle considered democracy one of the several constitution types. He distinguished between good regimes ruled for the common good and perverted regimes ruled serving only the rulers. He saw that democracy is potentially preservative, becomes move rule allows the poor majority to oppress the wealthy minority. Okay. In, Now the next one is what we call a in line to the origins of democracy. There is modern application and importance, or the democracy is really important. In what way? In modern democratic states like the Philippines, these principles are visible in elections, constitutional frameworks, and civil society. The importance of participation. Democracy provides equality, prevents abuse of power, allows the public input into policies, ensure accountability, educates citizens, and peacefully change.
Good day, I am Mariel Jane Jitan Awan, and today I'm going to talk about the types of democracy. So, there are two main types of democracy, which is the direct democracy and representative democracy. So, the difference between them is how people take part in decision making and how they are presented. First, let's talk about the direct democracy. So, direct democracy happens when all citizens gather together and vote on issues themselves. Everyone is treated equally and can share their opinion. This type of democracy only works in small communities because it is hard to gather everyone in a big population. Today is not common. Let's talk about representative democracy. So representative democracy is when people vote for leaders who will decide and make laws for them. These leaders represent the citizens in government. So they have two models, which is the trustee model and the delegate model. In the trustee model, leaders use their own knowledge to decide what is best for people. While in the delegate model, leaders simply follow what the people wants. We have the principles of liberal democracy. This type of democracy makes sure everything is fair. People must have free and fair elections. There should be different political parties to choose from, and all adults should have the right to vote. It is also does not allow discrimination, meaning no one is treated unfairly because of gender, class, and race. So lastly, the importance of participations. Democracy needs people to take part so it can work well. When we share our ideas and opinions, we help leaders make better laws. Participation also teaches us to respect others, listen to different opinions, and be responsible for what happens in our community. That's all for my report about the types of democracy. Thank you for listening.
And I'm here to discuss the lesson 2 about the features of government. So, what is the defining features of government? It is about the decision of group of people, and that is the basic principle for the democracy. Once understanding the basic principles of the democracy, here we can know the deeper understanding of how the democracy operates. And let's start with the democracy at the level of government. So next, about the regard for human rights. Now, and fundamental freedom. Democracy prioritizes the protection of promotion human rights and fundamental freedom that includes the freedom of speech, expression, and assembly. So, protection for arbitrary detention, torture to other human rights, access to education, healthcare, and social services. Last but not the least, there is a conduct of regular, fair, and Free elections. Democratic elections are characterized by regular, fair, and free. Regular, for elections are held at fixed intervals, ensuring accountability and representation. For fair, all citizens have equal opportunities to participate and the process is impartial. And for the freedom, citizens have hardened without coercion or intimidation or manipulation so they can vote just freely without.
Good day, everyone. Today, I will be discussing the rule of law. The rule of law means that no one is above the law, and even leaders must follow it. This means that people are equal under the law. Walang exemption, even if you are government officials and leaders, you must follow the law. The Constitution is the foundation of democracy. It protects the rights of citizens and prevents the abuse of power. Citizens enjoy many rights under democracy, but kasama din ito ng mga responsibilities. That is why the state is always accountable to the people. And to make sure that no one abuses power, democracy divides into three branches, which are the legislative, who makes the law, and executive, who enforces the law or carries out the law. The third is the judiciary, who interprets and applies the law. Next is broad citizen engagement. Broad citizen engagement explains why people should be actively involved in democracy and not just small groups. Broad means wide or exclusive or malawak. So this means a large number of citizens should take part in a democracy, not just small elite groups, but all. Democracy guarantees rights like freedom of speech, expression, assembly, and religion. Pero hindi dapat lang ito about rights. Dapat active din tayo in shaping government policies. So how can citizens participate? Citizens can participate during voting on election days, joining rallies, attending barangay assemblies, volunteering in community activities, joining social movements, and even participate on online petitions. If citizens do not participate, democracy becomes weak and leaders may abuse power. Broad citizen engagement makes democracy strong and meaningful. Is civil disobedience. Civil disobedience is about peacefully breaking unfair laws to stand up for justice and change. This means that they are breaking laws to fight injustice to demand reform. Pero hindi ito kagaya ng ng krimen because the intention is not selfish but moral and political. An example of this is the historical fight of Filipinos against dictatorship using peaceful means like rallies and strikes. Civil disobedience shows that citizens have courage to stand up for their rights and demand democracy in a non-violent way. Freedom of expression and religion. Freedom of expression and religion highlights the rights of people to speak freely, practice their beliefs, and assemble without fear. Democracy allows citizens to speak freely about issues even if they criticize the government. And people can choose their religions freely or even choose not to have one without the fear of punishment. And citizens may assemble, worship, and express their beliefs openly. This freedom makes society diverse, exclusive, and fair. It also promotes tolerance and respect among people. Civil society. Civil society refers to organization outside the government that gives people a voice and makes sure leaders remain accountable. It refers to the organization outside the government that allows citizens to participate in democracy. An example of civil society group are NGOs or non-government organizations, school and academic institution, churches and religious group, labor unions and worker groups, women's group, farmers association, so on and so forth. The function of civil society are voice of the people, raises the issue and concerns of citizens. Second is education. It teaches citizens about their rights and responsibilities. And third are the watchdogs. It moni- this monitors the government's action and exposes corruption. Fourth is channel of information. This communicates public concerns to lawmakers and policymakers. And the fifth are is advocacy. It pushes it pushes for reforms, better laws, and social improvements. Six is positive engagement. It works with government to solve problems and improve governance. And what is the importance of civil society? It makes democracy strong and meaningful, promotes values like tolerance, respect, cooperation, and upholding human rights. And it also protects citizens against government abuse. So without civil society, democracy becomes weak because citizens lose their voice and government power goes unchecked. So in conclusion, the rule of law is that everyone is equal under the law, even leaders. Broad citizen engagement is that citizens must actively participate in democratic life. And the civil disobedience is a peaceful way to fight injustice and it is not seen as a crime. Third is freedom of expression and religion. This ensures people can speak, believe, and assemble freely. And civil society, organizations that empower citizens and keep government accountable. So, in short, democracy is not just about elections or leaders. It is about citizens being active, responsible, and engaged, together with civil society, to make sure the government remains fair and accountable and respectful of human rights. And that is all for my report. Thank you.
Now let's proceed to the lesson 3, and it's all about the function of democracy in the Philippines. So, historical memories, the Malolos Congress and Constitution. So in September 1898, a revolutionary congress convenes in Malolos, Bulacan to draft a constitution. This constitution, known as the Malolos Constitution, was ratified on June 12, 1899, marking declaration of independence in Kawit, Cavite. It was officially promulgated on January 21, 1899, establishing the first Philippine Republic. So, the Malolos Congress drafted the Malolos Constitution, which was promulgated on January 21, 1899, establishing the first Philippine Republic, the first democratic government in Asia. So next, establishment of the first Philippine Republic. The Malolos Congress held its inaugural session on September 15, 1898, and ratified the Declaration of Independence on June 12, 1898. By November 29, 1898, the Malolos Constitution was ready and sent to Aguinaldo. The final version was adopted on December 22, 1898, and formally adopted by the Malolos Congress on January 20, 1899. The next day, it was the promulgated marking the birth of the first republic in Asia. So the first Philippine Republic was established on January 21, 1899. After the Malolos Congress adopted the promulgated the Malolos Constitution, marking the birth of the first republic in Asia. So next, the features of the Malolos Constitution. So the Malolos Constitution embodied early democratic ideas in the Philippines. It included a Bill of Rights and established three branches of the government, which are the executive, judiciary, and the legislature. So the executive, this is led by the president and the cabinet of department secretaries, and the judiciary, this is headed by the president of the Supreme Court, and the last one, the legislature, led by the prime minister, then called the Congress. Next, the separation of state. The first constitution also established the separation of church and state, a significant principle of the new motion. So, the Malolos Constitution established the separation of church and state, ensuring religious freedom and limiting church influence in the government. Next, reflecting Filipino aspiration. So the document aimed to reflect the aspiration of Filipinos for a government independent from foreign rule, as noted by Mabini and Agoncillo 2006. So the Malolos Constitution reflected Filipinos' desire for an independent government, free from foreign control. Next. The formation of the Republic. The creation of provincial and popular assemblies and the Malolos Constitution are presented as foundation of elements. So next, the formation of the Republic. So the formation of the Republic, this is the creation of provincial and popular assemblies, and the Malolos Constitution are presented as the foundation elements. So, the formation of the Republic was based on the Malolos Constitution and the creation of provincial and popular assemblies, laying the foundation for self-governance. Next, the democratic process. So the democratic process during both colonial and post-colonial periods, noting the influence of the elite who gained power through the Malolos Constitution.